Thank you. I'm excited to be here today. It's a real honor to stand in front of you, the prep community, and share how the prep experience has touched my life. Thank you to Mr. Tim Murphy and the members in the Prep Board of Governors, Dr. DeCasada, prep administrators, faculty, staff, President Nepik, parents, members of the class of 2019, and members of the Golden Class of 1969. And lastly, a special thank you to Father Szymanski for asking me to stand here before you all today. As you may know, Jesuits have been called God's Marines. In Father Szymanski's case, you not only have a guardian of this great institution, but a former United States Marine. So in my clearly unbiased opinion, prep is in good hands. Now on to the students. Congratulations. I can assure you that the next few years will be some of the most transformative, exciting times of your life. Before you embark on this next chapter, I would ask you to pause and reflect on the people that have supported you through this journey, many of whom are seated around you today. Take the time to thank your parents, teachers, and faculty for the extraordinary investment they've made in helping shape you into the man you are today. As you enjoy the time off this summer, make it a point to reflect on what aspects of prep you're going to take with you in the next chapter. I'm not talking about the friendships, the curriculum, or the ability to make it to the country cow to prep's parking lot in under 6 minutes while eating a breakfast sandwich. I'm talking about the lessons which make prep prep, the spiritual retreats, the commitment to service through hours of voluntary service, the focus on extracurricular activity, and the deep camaraderie on the sports field, all of which make for well-rounded men. Along those lines, I want to take some time to talk about my experience after prep and the tools this institution provided me, such as commitment to service, compassion for others, and the confidence to face adversity. Let's start with service to others. I can still remember my time volunteering at retirement homes through prep and always wanting to seek out World War II veterans. I was mesmerized by their stories and would imagine this experience, along with my admiration for both my grandfathers who had served, was a driving force behind my decision to attend the United States Naval Academy. And on that note, I understand we have 2 people going to the Service Academy, so congratulations to you. So, I can say unequivocally that serving for 10 years in the military was one of the most fulfilling decisions I've ever made in my life. Never once did I wake up and question my purpose for the day, and I know each one of you knows this feeling I'm talking about as a result of your volunteer service at prep. I would challenge all of you to find a way to stay involved with service to others post-prep. How will you choose to continue to stand for the greater good of all people? Perhaps in your life, that means the path of education through programs like Teach for America, or maybe it's volunteering for an at-risk youth program, or spending one evening a week at a food shelter. Or perhaps your service comes in a more subtle way, spending time with friends and families who need your support. Or maybe, and more realistically, service to you in the next couple of years will take the shape in keeping your college roommate out of trouble, which, from what I've seen, can be a full-time job. In the end, all equally important duties. Bottom line, when you find yourself seeking out a purpose, which happens to every single one of us at different points in our life, make it a point to push forward, to look outward, and give back. Remember your service at prep, and I'm confident you won't regret this path for a moment. Now, I want to talk about prep retreats and the compassion for others. I'm sure as young men, you all felt totally comfortable holding hands, praying together, opening up to one another about your deepest fears during prep retreats. I wasn't so confident. I remember sitting back and listening, but not really participating during those retreats. Looking back, I'm grateful for those experiences as they helped me navigate what I like to call the shades of gray. I ended up deployed as a United States Marine to Baghdad, Iraq, roughly 7 years after leaving prep. During that time, I had a Christian interpreter named Gibran. We ate every meal together and traveled the country teaching Iraqi forces how to protect themselves against roadside bombs. Prior to the war, Gibran had been a leading math professor at Baghdad University, and in fact had taught many of the Iraqi generals I would meet throughout my time there. During that time in Iraq, I was faced with dishonesty, deceit, and misdirection. At first, I was angry and flexed my position of power to get things done in a manner I was accustomed. But Gibran opened my eyes to the fact that the world is not so black or white, or better yet, right and wrong. There are a lot of shades of gray. I quickly learned that through my trusted interpreter and advisor that the most powerful ways to affect change was often to take a step back and see the world through the lens of the other party. This concept shouldn't have been so foreign to me given my upbringing and time at prep. Regardless, it made me reflect and look back at what I had learned. Maybe I wouldn't have been so quick to judge my Iraqi counterparties if my family lacked the basic necessities like safety and shelter. Would I steal, cheat, and misdirect if the basic things most of us take for granted in life were all suddenly at risk? Things weren't so black and white anymore. My reflection on this challenge ultimately brought me back to a prep retreat where I learned the saying, follow your moral compass. In my opinion, to follow your moral compass means that while life may be complicated, there is a reasonable belief that if you follow your heart, you'll make sound decisions. To follow your moral compass became a driving force behind how I chose to live and lead. On my deployment and beyond, I would talk to all my Marines about how we all come from different walks of life, but I'm certain we all knew the difference between good and bad. I challenged and demanded that each of my Marines follow their moral compass when operating in the shades of gray. You are all walking into a world beyond prep filled with shades of gray, and to complicate things even more, in today's society, you're flooded with endless amounts of real-time information, which are filled with misdirection and in many cases, the absence of information. So once again, I would challenge you to pause and reflect. When you face these situations in college, on the job, and among friends, be prepared for situations where there might not be a right and wrong. Be armed with your own version of the moral compass. I can assure you in today's divisive world that an open heart and an open-minded approach will set you up for success. The final point I'd like to discuss with you is adversity. If I know anything about Prepsters, it is that you are motivated to do great things and will continue to challenge yourself in different ways, whether it's in your community, work, sports, or the academic arena. In my case, my brothers, also Prepsters, would tell you that I challenged myself in the lacrosse field. They'd also be the first to share, somewhat jokingly I hope, that with my success in lacrosse came plenty of failure in the form of a lost high school state championship, a lost Division I national championship, and a lost professional championship. I'm happy to report I won a men's club 30 and over league recently. So, I would imagine many of you have already faced real serious challenges at prep and in life, and have ultimately picked yourself up and continued to march forward. With that in mind, I want to tackle adversity from a different angle today. I would challenge each of you to remember what motivates your friends seated beside you today, because among the many success stories that will arise from this group, there are few bound to get knocked down. Look beyond your own endeavors and be there for your classmates. Be a man for others. Beyond lacrosse, my real dream was to serve after college in the Naval Special Warfare community, commonly known as the Navy SEALs. I was ultimately given that chance and ended up starting Navy SEAL training with 297 other hopeful students. By the time we got to a week known as Hell Week, a week-long crucible with no sleep and extreme physical duress, we were down to 96 students. By the end of that week, we were fewer than 40. At the end of Hell Week, I was met on the beach by a Navy chaplain who handed me a Bible with the words inscribed, "Congrats, Ensign Russell, for your perseverance in the face of extreme adversity." I was very proud at that moment, and my faith had never been stronger. In the following weeks, I was released from training for failing to perform an underwater diving exercise in accordance with the expectations of an instructor. The remainder of the class all went on to become Navy SEALs. I got knocked down in a big way and quickly thereafter lost touch with my faith. Shortly after I was dismissed from training, I recall one friend coming over to my house to cheer me up and suggested we find me some hobbies. He went on to sign me up for a Facebook account, which was a new thing at the time, and encouraged me to start smoking cigarettes. He declared, quote, "These two things will certainly keep you busy." In hindsight, terrible advice, and I'm glad to report the cigarette idea didn't stick, but to this day, I appreciate a guy in his early 20s knowing enough to recognize that his friend was hurting and came to the rescue. And I can think of a dozen other examples where friends and family stepped up to check on me in their own way. And unfortunately, upon further reflection, I can think of a number of opportunities where I had the chance to step up and lend a helping hand, but I was too busy focusing on picking myself up and licking my wounds. So once again, I would challenge each of you to look outward, look beyond your own hardships and adversity, and always strive to be a man for others. Whether it's your college roommate, a friend, a teammate, a loved ones, be there for them when they stumble. Speak up, be present, care for one another. I can assure you that the only regrets you'll have on this front is when you decide not to step up and lend a hand. And I can tell you with full confidence, the toughest men and women I know in our elite military units today are compassionate, loving people of faith that step up when friends are down. The Prep Brotherhood has shown you how to love one another, embrace this special bond. In closing, as you reflect on your time at Prep here, be prepared to share the message of prep. I've been asked time and time again in my life how a Jesuit education is different than, quote, a typical education. In true form, I was naturally always quick to respond with a ton of confidence and very little substance. But if you ask me today, I would tell you that the Jesuit education embraces tolerance at its core. The Jesuits promote a strong foundation in education, which creates an environment that promotes compassion and service to others. Now, if I stand up here today and tell you my big message was to have your prep recruiting material in order when you walk out these doors, my wife would tell you that my speech wasn't very good and lacked a deeper message. So let me be very clear. Whether you realize it today or 8 years down the line like I did, we are all part of something special here. Take the time to reflect on your 4 years at prep and figure out how you plan to continue to be a man of action in service to others. In the end, we are all ambassadors of prep who represent the legacy of a Jesuit education. Thank you and congratulations.